Indriyamano buddhihi prakritibhyo vilakshanam tadvrittit sakshinam vidhyat atmanam rajavat sada. Dehendriyamano buddhihi prakritibhyo vilakshanam tadvrittit sakshinam vidhyat atmanam rajavat sada. What a beautiful verse, such a beautiful melody. Even to merely chant the verse is so enchanting. I don't know whether I'm able to do justice, but such a beautiful construction. The thought is so grand. So he says one should understand the Atman to be distinct from the body, the senses, mind, intellect, vasanas. This is exactly the definition we given earlier. Understand the Atman to be self vilakshanam. Vilakshanam means it is separate. All this which constitute matter, which is prakriti. Another word for matter is prakriti. And the word opposed to prakriti is purusha. So the Shastras use the word purusha means the self, prakriti means matter. Understand the self to be distinct from these and always a witness of their functions, Rajavatsada, just like a king. So beautiful. Now the message here is very simple, very straightforward, very direct. The message, the text this verse is giving us is to cultivate an attitude of being a witness, being detached, being a sakshi in life. It is so important to cultivate this attitude of being a sakshi. Now, what that means, this verse, the concept of sakshi is abhyasa, means it is the practice, it is the gatim, it is the goal. So what you practice is also the goal you reach. So it is the path and the destination. It is the journey and the goal you reach. What? To be a sakshi. And what is the simple way of describing the concept of being a sakshi? What's the simplest way to describe the concept of being a sakshi? As simple as you can. No need to glorify it. No need to philosophize it. Even the word detachment is a very high word. Being a sakshi means what? Simple, in simple terms. And if I can bring that into my life, believe me, it instantly insulates me of everything that happening around me. The simplest understanding of witness or being a sakshi is just to have an understanding within, I have got nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. With what? The body, mind, intellect, vasanas. I've got nothing to do with it. Why? Because I am the Atman. I am the truth. That's what the text is saying. Atman is separate from the matter. Purusha is separate from Prakriti. And Purusha maintains the attitude of perfect witness, it has got nothing to do with it. It is separate. Because of its separation, segregation, the matter doesn't influence Prakriti, Purusha. Prakriti doesn't affect Purusha. There's two separate entities. There's no connection. It doesn't interfere. No influence. The king has absolutely nothing to do with all that's happening. He just bosses over everything. He's just there, like a big boss. But he isn't involved in anything. In its presence, in his presence, everything happens. The moment the royalty passed by, everything loses its charm. Remember one of the best descriptions of God. I've said it and it's worth saying again. The best descriptions of God is, with it, everything happens. Without it, nothing happens. Yet it has got nothing to do with the happening. Seemingly innocuous phrase, but it conveys what the gist of the verse is. In its presence, everything bristles into activity, everything functions. The moment that's not there, nothing, it ceases to function. Yet it has got nothing to do with all that's happened. So the Atman maintains the stance that I have got nothing to do with it. Yet it enlivens it. Now the electricity, just like electricity and the bulb, the electricity enlivens the bulb. Has electricity got anything to do with the bulb and the light? Has electricity got anything to do with the cooler? Has anything to do with the refrigerator? Has it got anything to do with the heater? It has got nothing to do with it. Yet it remains immaculate. It remains unaffected. It enlivens it, yet remains apart. So all what we got to do is start practicing this principle of being a Sakshi. Now, where do you start with? What do you start practicing Sakshi with? Annapurnama, what do you start practicing? Where do you start practicing?
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om.
To be a Sakshi, like to develop an attitude that I've got nothing to do with, we begin from reducing our desires and attachment. And in the verse 15, you explained that we become what we get attached to. So get ourselves attached to the higher.
Ma, you're very high, ma.
And leave everything to him.
Can you please come to our level? You're very high level you are. At our level, Pesungo, please. If I have to start practicing, where do I start practicing? See, obviously we have to reach that state where you are detached to your desires, to your own thoughts. That's a pretty high level. Like your mind entertains a thought, you just say, I've got nothing to do with the thought. Let's say your mind entertains a certain urge. Would you say, I've got nothing to do with it? No, at a very, very high level that is.
To be a Sakshi, we should continue to do our duties without getting attached to the results.
My question is, Ma,
not expecting anything.
Practicing? Where do you start practicing? No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to just make it very simple. Where do you start with? Where does it start? Silent spectator. Maniji is saying, be a silent spectator.
But it won't help. Just being a Sakshi without acting, it must be like sattvic
action.
Sattvic action.
Yes, yes. No, it is understood that you have to act. It's not just being
Sakshi means not being inactive.
You know, the best is that, okay, Sakshi doesn't mean being a statue in the square. A statue is set up, put up in the square. Has a statue got anything to do with all the bird droppings on it? Gandhi Jayanti comes, there so much of decoration, flowers, anthems are sung, salutes, gun salute happens. Rest of the year, only birds are using to get perched and messing up the whole place. Oh, the Sakshi, the statue is a perfect Sakshi to the bird droppings and the garland. Therefore, I must become like a statue. Please don't mistake Sakshi to be that. I know where you're coming from. Sakshi is you are dynamic, you are active. Always remember, they always give the example of being like a lotus leaf in water. You know, you must be in it and yet be detached. That's the concept. But the text says you must develop Sakshi to the body, the senses, the mind, the intellect, vasanas. But where do you start practicing it? The first thing you got to start practicing Sakshi is to others' actions. You must start practicing a witness to those whom you are dealing with in day in and day out. Be a witness to their actions and tell yourself, I have got nothing to do with your personality. Have you got anything to do with their body? Have you got anything? When you were born with them? Oh, he is my lifelong partner. Oh, my child. Attachment, identification. So the opposite of being a witness is an unintelligent identification with something. So where do you start practicing detachment? Start practicing detachment or Sakshi to others' actions, others' personality. I have got nothing to do with you. Yet I will do all what I need to do because I'm duty bound as a husband or as a spouse or as a son or a father or a manager or a neighbor. Whatever my duties, I shall do it, but I have got nothing to do with your personality. That ray of thought is going to immune you from getting carried away and getting affected. Just tell yourself, I have got nothing to do with it. Just like you said, you perform your duties and you're not interested in the fruits of your action. Exactly the same spirit you're saying, isn't it? I do what I got to do. The fruits of action is not in my hand. So I am not interested in the fruit. I'll just do my karma. I come here, I do my karma. What happens out of it is none of my, it should not bother me, worry me. Have I done my part well? So it is, you got to start practicing this quality of witness externally first, and then march inward towards your own self. If you can't practice externally, forget it internally. So the test for your witness is, can you separate yourself from the world you live in first? And then you start separating your Atman from your own personality. And then you say, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect. That is a very high level, please. Let's not poo-poo this idea of detachment and Sakshi. You first start practicing Sakshi around you and then come inward. It's not easy. It is certainly not easy. The world, as I said, take the example of the statue. One day the bird droppings are there, second day garlands are there. So one day the world praises you, the second day the world discards you, puts you in a piece of rubbish. You say, I have got nothing to do with either praise or censure. I have nothing to do with it. So keep telling yourself at every stage, the sadhana. It becomes a sadhana.
Thank you, Guruji.
Yes, ma'am. It starts there and then concludes with what the verses say. Just like a king, Raja Vatsada. Otherwise, we are influenced, we are affected by the external world, aren't we? We are affected, everything outside affects you. Why? Because you are identifying with them. You have given you heed to the world because you value what the world has to say about you. If you say, I've got, that doesn't mean you are indifferent to it. No, don't be indifferent. I said, I've got nothing to do with it. But I'll still do. As a mother, you still do what you have to do, but you say, I've got nothing to do of my children, of my child. As a manager, you do everything towards your organization, but you say, I've got nothing to do with it. Every role you play, you just say, I've got nothing to do with it. Otherwise, ayyo, appa, ma, my, you start worshipping it and finished. Constant agony. That is what Krishna, why Lord Krishna is worshipped is because Lord Krishna maintained that attitude of a Sakshi, even though he associated with 16,000 gopis. The story says he associated with 16,000 gopis. Philosophically, what you must understand is 16,000 thoughts. He managed so many thoughts and ideas, so many desires, and yet he was a perfect witness. He was not affected, unattached. In the midst of action, he was right in the thick and thin of all through his life, yet he remained a perfect Sakshi. So start externally and move inward. That's the test. You test yourself. Okay? We will have to come back again, all right?